And we are back here on the GSMC football podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks that have something to prove down the stretch here. So there was an article that came out. There's 9 quarterbacks listed. So we'll go through each one, and I'll give you my thoughts, for each of them. So let's get right into that. For some reason now the article is not loading. Of course. All right, here we go. So 9 quarterbacks were listed. So we got Jared Goff, Will Levis, Sam Howell, Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, Joshua Dobbs, Tua Tagovailoa, and Kyler Murray. So I guess we'll start with Jared Goff. I mean, I feel like Jared Goff now. This past week against the Bears was not good. I mean, 3 interceptions. I mean, the Lions almost lost that game to the Bears. That was a very ugly game, but you know what? They pulled out the win. And you know what? I feel like Jared Goff has kind of proved himself a lot these last two seasons. I mean, he got traded to the Lions in the Stafford deal, and obviously losing that Super Bowl to the Patriots was bad. I mean, he did not play well in that game. 2019, they missed the playoffs. 2020, they made the playoffs, but they lost in the second round to the Packers. And then he gets traded to the Lions, and it seemed like this was kind of the end for him. But what the Lions have been able to do these last couple of seasons has been unbelievable, and he's been a main part of that. He's played very well these last 2 years with the Lions, and I think he's the franchise quarterback moving forward. He's got a great system that he's in. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, is a great play caller. He's somebody that could get a head coaching job, and he's surrounded by a lot of talent, like he was with the Rams. I mean, now you got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Last year, I mean, it was completely different. You had Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. Now it's but this year, both of those guys have run the football effectively. Gibbs has really come on strong. He's been playing well. Montgomery, missed some time with injury, but he's back and he's running the football well. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, their rookie tight end's been good this year. They got weapons all over the place, and they have one of the best offensive lines in football. So the Lions have really built something, for their team, and they got one of the top seeds in the NFC right now. They're playing tomorrow. But you know what? I think Jared Goff, they have him at 9, but obviously you want to see what they can do in the playoffs once they get there. Because, listen, their defense has been a problem this year. And, Jared Goff on the road, he hasn't fared well. So we'll see what happens. But for me, I think he's really proved himself. And you know what? Yeah, you always got more to prove. I mean, look at Tom Brady. I mean, he was always trying to prove something, even with the 7 Super Bowls that he has. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. But yeah, Jared Goff, I think he's one of the quarterbacks on this list that has proved himself. So yeah, and then they talk about Will Levis at number 8. And yeah, he was pretty good his first 2 starts. They almost beat the Steelers. I mean, the debut was unbelievable. I mean, he was 4 touchdowns against the Falcons. It looked like the Titans, hey, maybe we got something here. Then these last couple of starts haven't been good. I mean, against Tampa Bay, they only put up 6 points, and then they got blown out against the Jags. So yeah, they got to get themselves back on the right track here. Again, it's still early. He does have a big arm, but you know what? I mean, obviously there's going to be growing pains. He's going to be going into what? This is going to be his 5th start. Yeah, so I mean, it's too soon to tell what they have in Will Levis. But yeah, I mean, we got plenty of games left to see what he's got, and hopefully it goes better than how the last 2 games have gone. So they also have Sam Howell. I mean, I think Washington has something with Sam Howell. He's up there in passing yards. I know the turnovers, that was a problem. In the game against the Giants, I mean, 6 turnovers. Not all his fault. I mean, the interceptions were bad. And I think he did lose a fumble. He did fumble as well. But I think Washington, has something there. It doesn't help that he's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. But you know what? I think Washington does have something with him. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, after the season regarding their head coach, because Ron Rivera in all likelihood is probably gone. Do they promote Bieniemy to being the head coach? I don't know, but I think Washington does have something with Sam Howell. But you know what? They got to see. This is technically his second year. I mean, he only started one game last year. But you know what? He definitely has shown some flashes this year. So then you got Russell Wilson at 6. And you know what? Russell Wilson has played well this year. I mean, he hasn't been the Russell Wilson from the past where, he was an MVP candidate. But I will say, he has been decent. The Broncos, I mean, they looked like they were done. They were 1-5. But they've won 4 straight. I mean, and they've beaten some good teams. They've beaten the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. I mean, if you want to consider the Bills good, but I mean, I think in Buffalo, still not a lot of people expect them to win that game. They did win that game, and then they beat the Vikings. Everybody talking up Josh Dobbs. They beat Josh Dobbs. They forced 3 turnovers in that game. I mean, the defense has played a lot better. They're forcing turnovers. Now, I mean, it's crazy how this is the same team that, gave up 70 points to the Dolphins. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I mean, earlier in the season, I mean, they could have started off 2-0. They only lost to the Raiders by 1, and they lost to the Commanders by 2, and they were winning that game. So, if you flip those games, you're looking at a 7-3 record. But you got to give them credit. And they got the Browns at home, which is going to be tough, but with the backup quarterback, they can win that game. At Houston's going to be tough, but they could win that. They're at the Chargers. Chargers have a bad defense. At the Lions is going to be tough. Home against the Patriots. Home against the Chargers. At the Raiders. So, I think the Broncos, they can maybe get themselves to 9 wins. And Russell Wilson, again, 19 touchdowns to 4 picks. That's not bad. That's good. That's a good season. So this is going to be a very important stretch because the Broncos can definitely make a run here and possibly get into the playoffs. They can, 100%. I don't know if it's going to happen because it's the AFC is loaded. It's going to be tough, but I think it's definitely possible. So he's another quarterback on this list. So then we get to the top 5. So there's Pickett, Fields, Josh Dobbs, Tua, and then Kyler Murray is number 1. Now I feel like Kenny Pickett and Fields should be up higher. It's interesting that they got Josh Dobbs at 3. I guess for me, when it comes to Dobbs, I guess it's like, can you prove that you're a starting quarterback? I mean, maybe. But I feel like he's going to be somebody that is going to be a backup. I mean, he's proving that he can start. I mean, I guess for a team that really needs like a bridge QB, he could be someone that fills in. And he has done a great job this year. He was good with the Cardinals. I mean, I know like towards the end there it got rough. They were getting blown out, but then you step in to this situation with the Vikings and he's played well. I mean, he played his worst game the other day against the Broncos. The interception and fumbling. That was bad, and that kind of kind of affected the game because it's kind of the reason they lost is because of the turnovers. I think Kenny Pickett and Justin Fields, they should be more towards the top. Now Matt Canada's gone. And a lot of people are talking about how that is what has held the Steelers back. And Kenny Pickett hasn't been great this year. So now that he's gone and maybe this offense could, be opened up a little bit more, maybe he plays like how he did towards the end of last year. Because he did play well last year. The Steelers almost got in at 9-8, and he was a part of that. So let's see what he is now without Matt Canada. Get the ball to George Pickens, get the ball to Deontay Johnson. Continue to run the ball well with, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. You're getting Freiermuth back at some point. So, let's see what he could do down the stretch here. Justin Fields, same thing. I mean, he did play well against the Lions. The Bears right now are in position for the number 1 overall pick in the draft. And I think it's really how Justin Fields plays is really going to determine what the Bears do with that pick. But you know what? I mean, you gotta play him to. You gotta use him the right way. Let him play to his strengths. I mean, he ran the ball for over 100 yards. That has to be a part of his game. He's not a pocket passer. Let him move around. Now, obviously, you don't want him to get hurt, but don't limit him. Let him do what he wants to. Let him do what he can do. And yeah, I mean, listen, the passing numbers weren't there, but he had that long touchdown to DJ Moore. So he's definitely got something to prove. That him and Kenny Pickett, I would probably put those guys at 1 and 2, honestly. You got Tua Tagovailoa. I think, in terms of like the Dolphins as a team as well, it's like go out and beat an elite team. They got the Ravens on their schedule coming up. They did beat them last year. You lost to the Eagles by 2 scores. You almost came back against the Chiefs. You got blown out by Buffalo. Tua's been good this year. Tua's been solid. And he's going to continue to play well. But, once you get to the playoffs and you're playing, these elite teams, you're going to have to really step up. He's going to have to. So that's definitely why they got him at 2. And then at 1 is Kyler Murray. And, yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray's got something to prove. Absolutely. I don't know if I'd put him at 1. But, yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, they could be saying, maybe we're going to go in a different direction. But you know what? Kyler's played well so far. Still, a little rusty because obviously, recovering from the torn ACL. But, I think he should be the quarterback for the Cardinals. Unless they want to move in a different direction and some team comes in and says, hey, we'll take him, then that's different. But, I think so far Kyler has played well. Obviously the Cardinals, they, lost a tough game against the Texans on Sunday, which I think they could have won, but they fell short. But, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, those are all the quarterbacks that have something to prove. Let me know what you guys think. Which quarterback do you think has the most to prove down the stretch here? So, with that, we are going to take our second break of the show. But before we do that, I just want to remind you guys to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we are going to preview the Thanksgiving games. I will give you my picks as of right now. Again, subject to change, but we will go through that when we come back from our second break. So, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.